In today's episode of Locked On Pistons podcast, are the Detroit Pistons getting Malik Monk? Are they involved in a three-team trade? What is going on with the Dennis Schröder signing trade? I break down all of that and tell you guys exactly what is happening and what I'm hearing in today's episode, Locked On Pistons podcast. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Ku Khahil. I've been covering the Detroit Pistons for the Locked On Network over the last 4 years. I've been a credential media member over the last 3 years. I appreciate all of you guys, all of your support, the everydayers, those of you who make Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel where we just crossed over 11,000 subscribers. We are still on our way to 20,000 subscribers. We will eventually get there, but if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Or you can leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDNBA for $20 off your first purchase. In today's episode, we'll be discussing, are the Detroit Pistons better so far? Did they make themselves a better basketball team with what they've done through 3 days of free agency? Then we'll talk about as well, do the Pistons need to go out and get a 4 still out there? Like, is there anyone out there even available for them to play the backup 4 position? We'll break down all of that later on. But we're going to start with the news that, or really the rumors that is really dominating. It feels like it's been dominating the Pistons community ever since free agency started. And that is the Dennis Schröder sign-in trade with the Sacramento Kings. Now, I'll try to explain all of this the best I possibly can. I'm going to try to start from the beginning and work my way all the way through. Yesterday, I tweeted out some eye emojis, being fun, whatever. But I was hearing, and it ended up getting reported by some Sacramento Kings beats. But I ended up saying that I was hearing that the Detroit Pistons were engaged in a 3-team deal that would send Dennis Schröder, a part of a sign-in trade with Dennis Schröder, that would send Schroder to the Kings, would send Malik Monk to the Detroit Pistons, and send Jonathan Kuminga to the Kings, and then the Warriors were going to get some compensation from the Kings. That's what's been reported. I heard that. It's been reported by a lot of media over in the Kings space. I heard there's been a lot of people in the Pistons space who heard the same thing. But people in the Warriors mediascape are denying that this is the case. That doesn't so much matter right now. I'm just trying to break it down, but that's just where we're at right now. So, I want, because you guys have been asking me so many questions about this, so I want to make sure I get every question answered that people have been wondering. When it comes to Dennis Schröder and the sign-in trade, the Pistons can get Malik Monk. It's possible for them to get Malik Monk in return for Dennis Schröder. We'll see if that happens. But the Pistons and the Kings have until July 6th to wrap up this sign-in trade. What we know for sure, what I can tell you guys 100%, is that a sign-in trade will be happening. Now, whether Malik Monk will be coming back to the Pistons, whether they trade for a TPE, which we'll explain in just a minute, whether they maybe trade for another player on the roster. I don't think that's going to happen. It doesn't really work out for either team to do that, but a sign-in trade will be happening between Dennis Schröder, the Pistons, and the Kings. It will be happening. Now, the two options that appear to be the most likely scenarios is Malik Monk comes back to the Pistons, and that creates some cap room for the Kings to then open up their MLE so they can go and get players that they want. It sounds like they want to go after Russell Westbrook. It helps them go get players that they want to get, right? And the Pistons get a really good player, Malik Monk, back. The other option is the Pistons can get a $14 million TPE, which is a trade exception, that they could either use immediately or they could take into the regular season and try to use it maybe around the trade deadline. So then they have that $14 million trade exception. Either way, the Pistons will benefit in some regard. I'd like them to take Malik Monk. I think that would be a good deal. But even if they don't take Malik Monk, the trade exception will benefit them. You don't just lose Schröder for nothing. In either outcome, you get something in return for losing Schröder. So that's where we're at with that. By July 6th, a sign-in trade will be completed of some scenario. Now, I've had a bunch of people asking, is the 3-team trade going to go through? What am I hearing since I said I heard that this was something they were working on? Is that going to happen? From what I understand, from what I've heard, what I understand is this is all on Golden State. It sounds like the Pistons were on board with it. It sounds like the Kings were all on board with it. That specific 3-team deal would just simply come down to the Golden State Warriors being okay and wanting to trade Jonathan Kuminga in-state. And I've heard that is a problem for them. It sounds like that a lot of people do not want to trade Kuminga to Sacramento. They'll trade him to an East team. They'll trade him somewhere else, but they don't want to trade him to Sacramento. That's something I've heard as well. The other thing is Golden State has to agree to the package that the Kings send out. So if Golden State, basically, all you need to understand is if the Golden State Warriors agree to send Kuminga, who is a restricted free agent, a part of a sign-in trade to the Kings, and the Kings give up enough, value, whatever that the Warriors want, then the 3-team deal should happen. It's just about, do the Warriors actually want to be a part of this and actually send Kuminga? The whole reason why the Kings are doing this is because they're trying to create this cap room to go get someone they want, whether it be a Jonathan Kuminga or a Russell Westbrook. The whole reason why they're trying to get off of Monk is so they can create cap space to go get someone they want to get. So that the three-team possibility all relies upon if Golden State agrees with Sacramento on a deal that sends Jonathan Kuminga. The Pistons, they're fine just being patient because they know that they're getting something by July 6th. They don't need to rush right now. That's fine. They're just waiting to see, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? By the July 6th, we'll get what we want. Just tell us what you guys are doing. That's basically where they're at with that when in regards to the 3-team deal. Next question I've been asked a lot is, do the Pistons have to take back Malik Monk if they want to do this sign-in trade, or can they take on some other players? And yes, the Pistons could, and I'm sure the Pistons are doing this. They've been going through all their options. If they wanted to take on Schroder in a sign-in trade, and they wanted to take on Malik Monk, or they wanted to reroute Malik Monk, I should say, there are players who would fit into that. If they wanted to, like I said, Schroder goes to the Kings. Kings send out Malik Monk, but the Pistons, instead of taking him, reroute him to a third team and get someone they actually want, they can do that. The problem with that is you have to find a team that wants to trade Malik Monk or wants to take on Malik Monk and then wants to give you what you're asking for. It's hard to do. It's not impossible at all, but it requires multiple teams to get on board and agree and want Malik Monk just as much as, they want the player that they'd be trading to the Pistons. Is it possible? Yes. Will it happen? I'm not sure. Once you start getting more than 2 teams involved, it starts becoming more complicated. Now, the next thing that I want to make clear, a lot of people have been asking, why aren't the Pistons just immediately accepting Malik Monk? Because they can. The Pistons absolutely can just take on Malik Monk in a sign trade for Schroder, and the Kings would like that because they still would open up their MLE. Even if they don't get Jonathan Kuminga, they will like that because it opens up their MLE and they can go get someone they want. Why aren't the Pistons doing it? I'm somewhat asking the same question because I think if they got Malik Monk, this offseason would be infinitely better. Malik Monk's a really good basketball player. I think he'd be the best 2 guard on the roster. Doesn't mean he starts. I think he'd probably be the 6th man, but I think he'd be the best 2 guard on the roster right now. He's really good. Here's why the Pistons may not be interested in him. One, maybe they just don't think as highly of him as I saw in the Caris talking pretty higher on him, of the dunker spot. Steve Jones of the dunker spot spoke pretty highly of him. I've seen a lot of people, and myself included. I really like Malik Monk. Maybe the Pistons just don't think as highly of Malik Monk. That's one. 2, I think this is by far the most likely scenario. I think they do like Malik Monk. They went after him last year. I think they like Malik Monk. What I think is the most likely reason why is Malik Monk has 3 years left on his deal. The Pistons do not want to take on a 3-year contract. Every deal they've done has been a 2-year contract. Now, whether that's because Trajan has a long-term plan, which I hope is the case, that he has a long-term plan that in 2 years he plans on doing something, like there's something that he's looking forward to in 2 years that he wants to make sure he's ready to do. I hope that's the case. Or if it's just, we don't want anything longer than 2 years because it ruins our optionality. I think that would not be very smart. Now, if you have an actual plan for something in 2 years that you want to make sure you're ready for and don't want to have to, okay, well, we took this one deal. Now we're ready to do what we wanted to do in 2 years, but now we have to find a way to attach assets to this contract to free up the space we wanted, not because we want to be able to do our plan. I understand that. If it's just because you want every optionality and you don't want anything longer than 2 years because it maybe is a little bit harder to move, I don't know if I even agree with that. 1, and 2, I just don't think that would be smart. If you have a plan for 2 years, that's smart. I get it. If you want to stay to it, I get it. The reason why I'm saying that is because Duncan Robinson, he signed for a contract that is effectively a 1-year contract. It's a 3-year deal. First year is fully guaranteed. The second year is partially guaranteed. And the third year is completely non-guaranteed. Caris LeVert signed for a 2-year contract. Tobias Harris signed for a 2-year contract. Simone Fontecchio signed for a 2-year contract. Even Malik Beasley, recent reporting came out today, just before I started recording this, from The Athletic, that Malik Beasley, before everything is, and when I say everything, I mean, my God, everything's come out about it. The Pistons were, the contract they were going to sign him to was a 3-year deal with a team option on the third, which again, basically would have been a 2-year contract. So it sounds like the Pistons do not want to go beyond 2 years. Because that makes more sense to me and has made a lot more sense for this whole situation. Because before, people were trying to tell me that, oh, well, Malik Monk's just a bad contract. Why would you want his contract? You don't want it for 3 years. And I'm sitting here looking at his contract. It's a $20 million contract, $18 to $21 million contract for 3 years. Malik Monk's a really good player. $18 to $21 million is not a lot of money at all, especially for a really good player. That's a bargain. That's not a bad contract. In 2025, I've been sitting here like, dude, there's no way we're actually looking at Malik Monk on $18 to $21 million and saying that's a bad contract. If that's a bad contract, I'm concerned about some other things. Like, if Malik Monk on that money, I'm concerned about what some other players would look like on some money higher than him if he's considered a negative asset. So, I mean, maybe that is still the case. Maybe some other teams across the league don't like him at that number. Maybe that is the case. I find it hard to believe that he's just a flat negative asset just because of the contract. What my takeaway is, and what I understand is, the Pistons don't want any long-term money, and that's making it harder for them to just take back Malik. Maybe they end up doing it because, again, Malik's really good, but it really feels like they just do not want that long-term money. They want to stay at 2 years. If Malik was on a 2-year contract after this, I think he would have already been sent to Detroit. But I think there's a little bit of hesitancy with the Pistons because they don't want that 3rd year. To me, if you want my opinion, I would still do it because I think Malik's good in that 3rd year and expiring on that type of money, especially at 2027. $21 million, $20 million in 2027 will not be a lot of money at all. I think you could easily move off of it if you wanted to 3 years from now. Like, I don't think it would be a problem at all. So I would take it. But if that is the case and they have a plan 2 years from now, I understand why they would be hesitant to do it. So I believe I covered everything in regards to this. There's been so many questions from Pistons fans asking me about this. Can they do a sign and trade for Malik Monk? Yes. Will they do it? They can. Just depends if they want him really that bad. 3-team deal. Will it be going through? It depends on Golden State. Does Golden State come to an agreement with the Kings and the value they want? And do they actually decide to move him in-state, which it sounds like they don't really want to do? Relies upon that. The 3-year contract thing we spoke about, I think I covered every single part of it. Oh, and the Pistons, the Pistons will definitely have a sign and trade completed by July 6th with Schroder. It's just a matter of what will the sign and trade look like, but a sign and trade will be happening. Actually, last thing, the Jonas Valanciunas trade looked like it was potentially going to be rescinded, which would have impacted a lot of this, but recent reporting from Jake Fisher says the trade for Jonas Valanciunas is expected to still go through because Jonas Valanciunas, if you don't understand why it was being discussed, why it maybe didn't go through, because he sounds like he's going overseas. He might not be playing. So now, do the Nuggets want him? Would they take the trade still? Recent reporting says the trade will still go through, so it should not affect the Pistons at all. 13-minute segment. I believe I covered everything for you guys in this. If there's anything else that I didn't answer that you guys want answered in regards to this situation, let me know. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. But coming up, as of right now, are the Detroit Pistons a better basketball team? I'll tell you guys why I believe at the very worst, they're the same basketball team. We'll break it down coming up. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show that you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping, and that's where GameTime comes in. GameTime makes concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as they get closer to the showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Tired of endless scrolling trying to find the best deal? GameTime Zone Deals pick the best seats for you in whatever section that you like. Worried about what happens if the plans happen to change? Well, the GameTime Guarantee has your back with cancellation protection and more. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download the GameTime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed with GameTime. So one thing is, again, make Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free to available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. I'm recording this on July 3rd. Also, I guess I should probably say this on the pod. She'll love this. Happy anniversary to my wife 12 years ago. I asked her to be my girlfriend at a random, weird fireworks celebration for the 4th of July. You guys want to hear a funny story? Just real quickly. When I asked her to be my girlfriend at this event, the person who was handling the DJ, I had never seen fish flies before until she had me come to this event. Fish flies all over the place. I thought it was disgusting. Apparently, everybody in this area around St. Clair Shores thought it was fun to make a song about fish flies, asking the crowd to chant about fish flies. And I immediately was grossed out, and I didn't know if I wanted to be her boyfriend anymore after that. I'm not going to lie to you. It was kind of weird. I'm trolling. I'm somewhat trolling a little bit. Anyways, are the Detroit Pistons a better basketball team as of July 3rd, 3 days into free agency, than they were before? I will make the argument that I don't think you can say they're worse. I think at the bare minimum, it's fair to say that you're just like, sure, like they're the same. At the very least, they should replicate themselves. Like they should be the same. And here's why I believe that. I said this a little bit on the last episode. Trajan Langton said before free agency started that he wanted to bring back the vets and didn't foresee making any big moves. That's what he said. Now, again, if they get Malik Monk, I think I instantly go from where I'm going. I'll tell you guys where I'm grading it so far. My grade will jump 2 whole letter grades if they get Malik Monk. I think that would be great. Absolutely fantastic. But we'll see if they actually do it. Anyways, Trajan Langton said, want to bring back the vets and didn't foresee making any big-time moves and was going to rely upon internal development. Now, what ended up happening is Schroder left. Beasley, I can't really blame Trajan with that, but Beasley situation happened. THJ signed with Denver. The only real vet that's returning, I guess if you want to call him a vet, is Paul Reed. I don't really consider him a vet. He's not that old. So the only vet left is Tobias. So some people may look at that and say, okay, well, he wasn't even able to execute the plan that he wanted. I don't necessarily think that's the case. He basically did that exact same thing, just with different players. Like, Caris LeVert is replacing Schroder. Duncan Robinson is replacing Malik Beasley. Like, those two guys are replacing the exact same roles those two guys played, and they're both going to be viewed as vets. Caris LeVert is on the other side of 30. Duncan Robinson on the other side of 30. Now, you get your vets. Duncan Robinson plays the exact same movement shooter role as Malik Beasley did. Caris LeVert is going to play that same exact ball handler role that Dennis Schröder played. So maybe you didn't get the exact players, but if you remove the names from the players and just looked at the archetype in the player, it's the same. Like, they have the same, what his plan was before July 1st, he basically acquired the same stuff. It's just different people doing it. So I don't think that he failed. I see some people thinking the Pistons offseason has been horrible. I don't think it's been horrible at all. Like, they've done basically what he said he was going to do. He just did it with different players. And then with THJ leaving, Jaden Ivey was going to be coming in. Like, Jaden Ivey was coming back. I had been saying this on the podcast for months, and people were thinking that I was just like reaching. I guess I was, reaching for content or ideas. The Pistons once Ivey came back, they did not have enough room for everybody. They didn't have enough room for every single one of those guys to get minutes and to bring in a guy. Like, if you wanted to bring in somebody to help and keep everybody around and give Jaden Ivey 30-plus minutes, it was going to be hard to do. Now, I will say, because some people, I can already hear it right now saying, well, Ku, how are you going to get Malik Monk? Well, if you want Malik Monk, just a sidebar real quick, you play Malik Monk at the 1 or Caris LeVert at the 1, Malik Monk at the 2. Then you'd play Duncan Robinson as the backup 3. Then you'd play Ron Holland at the 4, which I think we'll get into the third segment, but I feel like that's probably where they're going to play Ron. It sounds like that Ron will be playing a lot of his minutes at the 4, and then Stu. And you just play a 10-man rotation. I know JB I'd said this last summer, that JB has loved 8, 9-man rotations. 8 is a little bit of a stretch. He liked that in the playoffs. But 9-man rotations, even back in Cleveland, he loved it. But Pistons, he cycled back and forth with the 10-man rotation. Honestly, I feel like he probably would have stuck with the 10-man rotation if the 10th player was good enough. Like, he kept going back and forth with players at the 10th spot, trying to give him a chance. Like, if Simone was good, he probably would have played and would have been a 10-man rotation all year. Like, if Sasser really popped, it would have been a 10-man rotation. Just neither of those players really forced. Like, JB kept giving them chances, and they just never really took it. But that's the sidebar for those. I already know the comments. Well, Ku, how can you say that Monk? Well, there you go. But Ivy replaces THJ. So everything you had last year has been replaced. So at the very least, I believe they stayed the same. They should not be worse next year. We always knew, like, as much if you were part of the fan club that wanted the Pistons to make moves, then great. But I feel like most of us always knew that. Oh, we just got that's a Jackson Hayes news. Who cares? Shams, you gotta be better with the news you're breaking, man. No one cares about Jackson Hayes. We all really knew that this next season the Pistons were going to take a jump by the improvement of their young guys. That's where it was going to happen at. So they replaced the vets that they had. They replaced them with the exact same archetypes. I don't think either of the vets are that much worse. If you want to say one of them is worse, maybe. I think I probably would stick at they're probably the same. Like, I think before this past year, people would have said Duncan was better than Malik, and then this past year, Malik just had an otherworldly season, so now Malik is better than Duncan. But before this past year, I think people probably would have rather have had Duncan because he provides the movement shooting, and he has more size, and he seems like he's a better playmaker. So, I think that's at least a wash. And then Caris LeVert, look, I'll say this. People know I wasn't high on the Caris LeVert signing. I've tried my hardest to come around to it. So I'll say this about Caris LeVert. And this is fair. If LeVert is what he was last year with the Hawks and the Cavs half a season, if he was what he was last year, he will be better than Dennis Schröder. Because what he was last year was a much smarter basketball player. He took much better way better shots. He was smarter about those shots. He played more defense, and he was just more. He was more efficient. He actually made his shots at the rim. He actually made some of the looks he was creating in the mid range. He made more threes last year. Like he actually hit. He actually was just more efficient and was smarter with the shot. So if that actually is who he is, then he will be better than Schroeder. My concern with LeVert is we have 7-year sample of him being very inefficient. He has one good year in a contract year. Kind of raises eyebrows for me. Like, you're 30, 31. It's going to be hard for me to believe that after 1 year in a contract year that your previous 7 years aren't actually who you are. You actually are the player in the 1 year. It's possible, though, and I'm rooting for that to be the case. If he is that, he's better than Schroeder. So then you could easily say they have better vets. You could say they have better vets. He has more size. He can play defense. He has that ability to break down the defense, to get to the paint, and kind of score for himself if he's being efficient. So if he's what he was last year, LeVert's better than Schroeder. And people could probably make the argument that Duncan's better than Beasley. And I think everybody would make the argument that Ivey's better than THJ. So if you don't want to go on board with all of those three guys being better, I understand it. That may be the most optimistic way of looking at it. But I don't think you can be any more pessimistic than saying they're at least the same as they were last year. And if the young guys get better, that's where the jump's going to come from anyways. If Cade can become even more efficient, get better as a finisher at the rim, they'll take a jump. If Ausar improves his ball handling, can be trusted to do some more things offensively, they'll take a jump. Like Ausar playing all year and being healthy and being able to actually play 30 minutes a game, which I think he definitely will, and he actually be a part of your starting lineup from the start of the season to the end, that it already will provide a boost. So Ausar improving will help them take a leap. If Duren actually improves greatly defensively, that should make them take a leap. If Jaden Ivey actually becomes a good finisher instead of one of the worst finishers in the league, they will take a leap. Like all of these young guys, Cade needs to get better. Ivey needs to get better. Ausar needs to get better. Duren needs to get better. If those guys get better, the Pistons will be a better basketball team. It doesn't really matter about Caris LeVert, Duncan Robinson, and Paul Reed, whoever, whatever. Throw out a name, a vet name. Like, I'm not, maybe not matter is a little too strong. Those guys do matter. They'll contribute. You need your vets to be good. But they're not going to be the main reason why the Pistons get better. It was never going to be that. Now, again, if they get Malik Monk, I'll change my tune. I expect them to be a lot better, and I think that would be great. But as of right now, at the very least, they're the same. And I think you could easily make an argument that they should be better. Now, they could be a better team, and maybe because the teams behind them made some big moves, maybe they don't move up in the playoff standings. We don't know. We have to watch how the season actually plays out. But they could be a better team than they were last year and not actually move in the playoff seeding. And I know for a lot of you guys, that's all that really matters, and I get that. But I don't know how you can really make the argument they're worse. I understand some people want moves, but Trajan kind of told us that wasn't going to be the case. And you kind of just got to rely on internal development. So even if you're not the happiest about this offseason, I don't know if you can be so unhappy to say that they're a worse basketball team. So my grade for the Pistons so far in free agency is like a C+. Like, I don't think they've been great. I don't think it's been like some revolutionary moves. I don't think it's been bad moves either. I think they all make sense. Like, they just don't wow me. So it's fine. Yeah, they're fine. C+. Like, they pass. It's fine. That's where I'm at with it. Let me know. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. How do you guys grade the Pistons offseason so far, 3 days into free agency? And how would you guys change that grade if they do acquire Malik Monk? Let me know. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. Coming up, do the Detroit Pistons need a backup four? And are there any backup fours even available on the market anymore? I'll tell you guys the answer to that coming up. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. 3 days into free agency, there's only one position I would say that is very clearly not addressed that I have been screaming from the mountaintops that they need to address. And that is the backup four position. Now, before I get into, I don't know if I really have to get into why I think the backup four is a big time need. I've done it for months. I think a lot of you guys probably know why. So I'm not going to spend too much time diving into why it's such a big time need. Again, we've talked about it a ton. But I will say, looking at the rotation, especially if they end up acquiring Malik Monk in a sign trade with Schroder. But even if they don't, it's looking like that. It's lining up to look like that Ron Holland will be taking up a lot of the backup 4 minutes. Like, I'm going to lay out what I believe the rotation is about to look like based off what it is right now. I think it's going to be Cade, Ivey, Ausar, Tobias, and Duran in the starting lineup coming out. I think the backups will be a 9-man rotation. I think it will be Caris, LeVert, Duncan Robinson, Ron Holland, and Isaiah Stewart. I think that will be your 9-man rotation. Maybe JB tries to give Bobby a chance. Maybe he tries to give Lanier a chance. Maybe he tries to give Sasser a chance. Sure, but you will have a consistent 9-man rotation. And my expectation is the way they will sort out these minutes is Cade will take all his minutes at basically the point guard position, and the backup point guard position will be taken up by Caris LeVert, and that's where he'll get his minutes. Ivy will take up a lot of his minutes, most of his minutes at the off guard position, and I think Duncan Robinson will take up some of his minutes at the 2 and also at the 3. I think that then you will have Ron Holland taking up a lot of the backup 4 minutes and backup 3 minutes, so you can see him have an increase on minutes. Because if he's only getting minutes at the 3 position, there's not as many minutes available for him if he's only playing as a small forward. And you want Ausar to, or not Ausar, Ausar too, you want him to play 30 minutes, but you also want Ron to play a lot more than he did in his rookie year. You want him to take this jump. So you want him, he'll be splitting minutes, I'm going to guess, probably like 14-14. I think he'll play 14 minutes at the small forward position and 14 at the 4 position. I think there's a good possibility Ron is the most played bench player next year, him or Stu. And then Stu plays all his minutes at the 5. That's how I'm looking at it. Now, if they did not think of Ron at the 4, one, I think it's going to be hard for Ron to get many more minutes than he did this past year, which I don't think is what the team wants. And 2, like I said, if they did get Malik Monk, I think you just shift everything down. Malik's at the 1, Caris at the 2, or swap either one of those. Then you got Duncan Robinson at the 3, Ron at the 4, and Stu at the 5. There's your 10-man rotation. Like, that's where I think it's going to happen. Even Ausar, I think Ausar maybe gets half of his minutes at the 4. Maybe it's Ron that stays all the way at the 3. Ausar plays 14 of his minutes at the 4, or at the 3, maybe 15, 16, and then plays 14 at the backup 4 position. He gets staggered. Maybe that's what it is. But I think they have a plan for Ron and Ausar to play those backup 4 minutes. And while I've said this before, I really do not think that Ausar or Ron are 4s. Like, I very much think they're both 3s and 2s. I really don't think of them as 4s. I understand why JB may think that this is the best way to get them both minutes and the best way to try to implement both of them into the rotation as of right now. I get that. Despite that, though, I think you need a backup 4 still. They've been linked to Chris Boucher. Apparently, as of today, there was a report that came out that they're interested in him. Maybe Trey Lyles they're interested in. There's not many options. There really isn't. Maybe they try to get a sign and trade. Maybe a third team in this Schroder sign and trade. Maybe they find a way to get John Collins. I think that would be good. But at the very least, I think you need another 4-man. Even if he's not going to play a lot of minutes, even if he's not part of the rotation, there's someone can play the 4 and you can trust in spot minutes. Because God forbid, knock on wood, man. But God forbid Tobias get hurt for a stretch. What you going to do? What are the Pistons going to do if that happens? They have, we saw how large. He had the largest on-off net rating of anyone on the team. Why is that? Well, one is because he was really good. But another large part is because they had no one for him when he came off the floor. When he came off the floor, they had no other 4. It was Simone Fontecchio. They need a backup 4, even if they want to give all the minutes to Ron and Ausar. If Tobias were to go down, and again, knock on wood, you don't want it to happen, but these are things that happen to players who especially are getting older. You have to at least prep for those kind of things. If that were to happen, you want to be prepared. You want to have an option. I don't even know right now, what would they do if that did happen? Who would start? Are they just going to move Ausar down to the 4, start him at the 4, then bring in Duncan? Is that what they would do? I don't know if that's the greatest. I guess, but I don't know if that's really the greatest idea. Sure, I mean, maybe it works. I don't know. I really don't like Ausar or Ron at the 4, but I get why you have to do it if you want to stagger their minutes. And maybe Ron comes back much bigger. I think that would help for him, too, to play the 4. But, again, I've said this multiple times before. I really don't know if Ron and Ausar, Ron more than Ausar, but I don't know if either of them in their best case future are at their peaks. I don't view either of them as these bulky, strong guys. Their builds and yes, they need to get stronger. This is another thing too. There's some people that don't get this. You can get stronger without just getting bulky. There's a difference. Trajan did say Ausar needs to get stronger. I guarantee you he's not telling Ausar to put on 15 pounds of muscle and get bulky. That's not what he's telling him. You can get stronger without getting bulky. And I don't think that either really Ron or Ausar at their peaks are getting there by being these heavy set guys. Their slender build, their ability to be, how quick they are, their ability to fit increases. I think that really plays to their strengths. That's part of the reasons why they're so good and why they're such good prospects. So I do think that a little bit differently with Ron. I think Ron could put on maybe 10 more pounds of muscle, but it's not I think he's going to be getting up to 230 and it's going to be willing to battle with a Pascal Siakam or a Julius Randle. I don't think that's, ever going to be in his future. At least I don't think it should be. In a long roundabout way, I've kind of talked about the 4 position all kinds of different ways right now. Long about way, I don't know if the Pistons view it as much of a need as I do, because I think they're going to try split minutes with Ausar and Ron, which I at least understand. But I still would say they need to go out and get a guy, even if he's not going to be part of the rotation, at least get a guy for if the worst case scenario happens, knock on wood, that Tobias goes down, you have a succession plan. You have something that you can survive. If Tobias even gets into foul trouble, he fouls out, whatever. You at least have someone there that you can trust. And you're not in the same position you were last year, basically. Anytime Fontecchio came on the floor, you were please, God, to survive. That's at least where I'm at with it. So let me know, comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. Do the Pistons need to go out and get a backup 4, or are they all set with Ron and Ausar to take those minutes? Again, let me know, comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free to available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there. And until next time, peace out, everybody.